It's Colorado Matters from CPR News. I'm Ryan Warner. Denver's representative in Congress is here, Democrat Diana DeGette. We're going to get her priorities for 2020. We'll also take stock of a 2019 that brought some exceptional developments.
The House will proceed to the immediate consideration of House Resolution 755. The clerk will report the resolution.
That was DeGette in December presiding over the U.S. House. Resolution 755, by the way, laid out impeachment articles against the president. She was front and center again this week as the House voted to send the matter to the Senate. Representative DeGette joins us as part of our New Year's series with the delegation. Welcome back to the program.
Great being with you, Ryan.
Two major developments this week in the case against the president. So an indicted associate of Rudy Giuliani, Lev Parnas, said Trump knew full well of the effort to get dirt on his political rival in Ukraine. And second, a government watchdog Thursday found the Trump administration violated the law by withholding Ukraine aid. The Republican line this morning is that the House inquiry was lacking with all this surfacing after the fact. What do you say to that?
Well, all the evidence that's come to light ever since the impeachment vote in December has only bolstered the strong case that we had already for impeachment.
Could it have been a stronger case you sent to the Senate?
Well, it could have been it was a strong case. It could have had more evidence if President Trump would have allowed the witnesses from the administration and the documents to be produced. But what we're finding now is all of these documents that only bolster what happened have come out. In December we had a caucus and Adam Schiff was talking about all of the evidence, and he said the most powerful piece of evidence was the first piece that came out, which was the transcript of the phone conversation where President Trump said, "I need you to do me a favor now." And everything else that's come out since then has only strengthened that case. So for people to try to say, well, there's more evidence coming, it should have come in the House, it's just bolstering an already strong case. And frankly, I haven't heard any Republican try to argue that this didn't happen.
I want to quote from the findings of the Government Accountability Office, again, which found the withholding of Ukraine aid to be illegal. It's a short quote. The Constitution grants the president no unilateral authority to withhold funds. If the president is acquitted in the Senate, do you have deeper concerns about the separation of powers, Congress's power of the purse being weakened?
Well, this impeachment proceeding, there were two articles of impeachment. The first one was that he exceeded his bounds by making the aid and also the meeting in the White House contingent upon an investigation of Joe Biden to help him in the 2020 election. And the second one, of course, was the obstruction of Congress, the refusal to give documents and witnesses. I'm concerned every day, even aside from the impeachment, that President Trump thumbs his nose at Congress. Despite the Congress's restriction of funds for building of a border wall, yet you saw this week the president now has said he's going to use even more money in Department of Defense funding to build the border wall. He continually tries to diminish Congress, and he really thinks he's allowed to do anything under Article 2. That's not a president, that's a dictator, and that's what we're continuing to fight against every day.
You're calling President Trump a dictator?
I don't think he would mind being a dictator.
I want to go back to December when you led impeachment debate in the House. I understand you were told of the possibility a couple of weeks beforehand. The New York Times said that you were picked because Speaker Pelosi was impressed with your, quote, tough, skillful parliamentary hand. You had to be prepared for anything that the Republicans might have done in their defense of the president. What were some of the possibilities you looked at as you prepared for that moment?
Well, you never know in a really fraught situation like that. Obviously, the stakes are very high. You don't know what motions people might try to bring. You don't know if members might try to have demonstrations on the floor, or you never know what's going to happen in the gallery, if people will try to start demonstrating in the gallery. And so my job when I'm presiding is to keep a firm hand, to be fair and equitable to both sides, so also, if someone for example, if someone's speaking and their time is up, to make them stop speaking, and also to not let the debate on the floor get out of control, or the gallery. And
it's fascinating. I hadn't thought about the gallery.
Right.
You have your eyes not just on the members, but
that's right. You're in control of the whole chamber, and I've really made a specialty of doing that. I enjoy presiding because it helps the debate go forward in a very responsible and even-handed way.
The Trump administration posited that you were in the chair because Speaker Pelosi knew that polling numbers had cast her in a negative light. This is White House spokeswoman Stephanie Grisham.
I think that she's seeing that her face being associated with this is a very bad idea. So she's put forth this poor congresswoman from Colorado who should be very worried now about her face being associated with it.
Yeah, I'm not very worried about my face being associated with it.
Tell me more about that thinking.
Traditionally, Stephanie Grisham obviously has no idea how the floor works, because traditionally in debate, the speaker does not preside over the debate, whether Democrats are in control or Republicans. And as a matter of fact, during the Clinton impeachment, Ray LaHood, a congressman from Illinois, presided over that proceeding. I was really honored because the day after the proceeding with Trump, Ray LaHood called me up to congratulate me, and I said, there's only two living people who've presided over an impeachment proceeding, you and me, and here we are talking on the phone.
Speaking of congratulations, Republicans are really making hay of the fact that Speaker Pelosi handed out those pens after the signing of the articles, sending them to the Senate. Was that in poor taste, do you think?
So it's actually kind of an arcane Washington tradition. Every time the president signs a bill that's an important bill, he uses a number of pens, and then they're distributed to the bill sponsors and others. And
was this a time to skip that arcane?
And I think that it was an important bill enrollment, and I think the speaker wanted to have I think she wanted to have the impeachment managers and the committee chairs have some kind of a memento of what they had done.
This is Colorado Matters from CPR News. I'm Ryan Warner. We're continuing our series of conversations with members of Colorado's congressional delegation, this time Democrat Diana DeGette of Denver. Let's get to some policy, Congresswoman. On Wednesday, the Senate passed a new North American trade deal, the USMCA. This actually received bipartisan support. What are you envisioning as its impact on Colorado?
Well, I think this was a really important updating of the Canada-Mexico trade deal that we had before, and I think this will really help open up our markets even more. One of the reasons I supported this trade deal is because it had much stronger environmental and labor protections, and it also had very good protections for biomedical biosimilars and so on. So I think it's going to really help our economy, agriculture, but also other things.
Is this something where you and the Trump administration see eye to eye?
Well, we were able to, in the end, it was a negotiation. The House Democrats were able to put much stronger provisions, and it's a good example of when Washington works.
One of the major initiatives that you've taken up during your time in Congress has been the 21st Century Cures Act. Working with the FDA and the National Institutes of Health, it's designed to accelerate breakthrough treatments. You mentioned medical treatments in the context of the new NAFTA, but it occurs to me that the 21st Century Cures Act only passed in 2016, but you're already working on a kind of reboot, like a 2.0.
Yeah,
Why is that
We're
necessary?
working on Cures 2.0. The 21st Century Cures was the biggest restructuring of biomedical research and then drug and device approval at the FDA that we've ever done.
Was that approval too slow? Was it outdated?
Well, some of the research ways that we had at the NIH and then some of the approval ways were just outdated with different with the mapping of the genome, with precision medicine and individual medicine, and with electronic research and medical records. There's a lot of more efficient ways to do it. And so that was what that bill was.
And you already need a reboot.
So, well, it's not a reboot. It's a enhancement.
And what will it mean for patients?
I think what it'll mean is that there'll be Cures 2.0, which is bipartisan, I'm doing it with Fred Upton, Republican from Michigan. What it's going to do is put much more of a focus on patient-centered medicine so that we're hoping patients will be able to get their medical records more easily, but also that their genetic makeup will be able to be used in developing cures that will be central to them.
This is
exciting.
Called personalized medicine.
Yeah.
So there are barriers to that right now, to a treatment being sort of customized for my DNA.
Some of the research requirements, and some of the ways that people do research, and also some of the ways that our computer systems are interoperable, they don't work. So this is going to break down some of those barriers.
Earlier this week, an investigatory panel you sit on heard from states on how they're using federal money to battle the opioid crisis. Right. We're talking billions of federal dollars here. What was the most surprising thing you heard, or something that an individual state has done on opioids that you'd like to see implemented in Colorado or the country?
Well, so that's the Oversight and Investigation Subcommittee. I'm the chair of that subcommittee, so I ordered that hearing. And we brought in some of the states to see what they had done with resources. Actually, those resources came forth in the 21st Century Cures Bill that I had passed. And we were very encouraged to see that states have been able to use those. But now what the issue is, as so typical, a lot of the addicts have moved away from opioid use to methamphetamines and other types of drugs.
Cocaine, in fact,
and cocaine has been a problem. And so one of the things they asked us to do, which we might do in Cures 2.0, they asked us to give them more flexibility with what they can do with the federal dollars for opioid treatment and prevention, to allow them to use it for other types of drug abuse.
This is not a great simile, but it's a bit like whack-a-mole. In other words, if you're aiming to get opioids, that only works for so long because other drugs enter the picture.
And that's part of what some of the witnesses were saying. We need to not just focus on the substance that people are abusing, but we need to go much deeper into the mental health and into the lifestyle to prevent people from drug addiction in general.
The idea that if you do that, it's nimble enough to respond to whatever the drug is at the moment.
It's not drug-based, it's lifestyle and addiction-based.
Well, Congressman, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
It's great being with you. Glad to be in studio.